Yeah, so I am Faisal. So I have been, yeah, hi. So yeah, I have been working with Rently since 2 years. We are the uh, one of the biggest self-touring solution provider in the US and Canada. And yeah, actually it's 1.8, but someone told me if you write 2, you'll get more recognition. Yeah. Yes. So coming to agenda of the today's meeting. So emulate AWS service locally. So we'll try to use the AWS services locally. And before like going to actually implementing that, we'll try to see what specific pain points as a developer we face. And we'll create a use case and we'll try to solve that problem. And to make it like more clear and like understandable for everyone, we'll get the basic context of some of the AWS services, and at the end we'll end with some like demos and debugging of lambdas. So why we wanted to develop these AWS services locally? So these are the like 3 points I have written, but once we analyze the problem in more detail, we'll be much clearer to that. So basically, it enhances the developer experience. Obviously, it's more cost efficient because you are not developing on cloud, you're developing locally. And faster shipping, how I'll prove that. So let's understand the use case. Uh, you are a front end team, and you guys are working on a feature. Parallelly, back end team is also working. And assume your product is structured. First of all, how many of you are in production using API gateway as a proxy or something? Lambdas? Yeah. So now I think it will be much clear. So assume while you are doing development locally, you have to point out to the backend which must be deployed to some server to get their backend changes, uh, to get updated with their backend changes and parallelly work. So every time a backend team makes some changes, you have to wait for them to deploy. And there are some use cases like now many of the teams are moving to bare metals. You must have heard, like our company also moved. So you don't want to develop that much frequently because this time your container will just start, system will go down. So to make this development faster, if there is any way, we can take the backend changes of them. We'll still use the AWS services, but we'll not call the actual AWS services. So this is the problem statement. And to simulate this problem statement, I'll give you one app structure. So assume you have a front-end application that makes a REST API call to, okay, sorry. Yeah, so you have a front-end application that makes an API, a REST API request to API gateway. API gateway proxies it to either of the backend services. It might be Lambda, might be your local services. So in that case, the like the problem we were trying to solve is like, say in some cases it is pointing to a backend server, but now this changes is not deployed in the any of the environment, and you want those changes and work parallelly with the backend team. So like before we like try to solve this problem, I want to give context like what is this API gateway and this Lambda functions are. So it will be much clearer now. So how many of you know this? Have you, how many of you seen this movie? You got the context? Okay, I'll give the context. So here the Ron and Harry was not talking. Harmony was mediating between them. So here Harmony is the API gateway. Ron and Harry are the different services. Every time Ron makes some request, Harmony transfers to uh, Harry and the vice versa. So this is just the API gateway. Like you can add as many definitions you want, but I don't think like it's more like it does the job. So yeah, so basically if we go by the book's definition, it's like a management tool that uh, sits between the client and the backend service. And it has different use cases. For example, like rate limiting, circuit breaking, and different aspects, some security aspects also. So next we'll go with the Lambda. So Lambda is nothing but you assume you don't have a server, you want to run your code. You give your code to Lambda, Lambda will run for you, give you the result. So it has some use cases, many like image processing and all, many people want to do in the Lambdas and all, PDF services and all. So I'll give you like now a brief introduction, like how we'll solve this problem with the local stack. So this is the open source code base of the local stack, and it shows how you config. So we'll not go much in detail. Just to set up, you have to do nothing. You have to just install this. Yeah, this you can install, and then you can start this local stack with this. And it has different environment variable that you can pass. I'll show you at the end while debugging. So based on your use case, you can pass different environment variables, and based on that, it will work. Sorry? It has a community version also and pro version also. It does the job like for you. If you want, you can use it. Sorry? Yeah, currently AWS all services, mostly all of the services. So I'll give you. Yeah. So actually here we were mostly looking into the use case of API gateway and the AWS Lambda. So this is a basic doc they have written to get started with it. So I'll summarize it for you. Yeah. So basically, with the what they have done, these are the steps they had followed with the AWS CLI. You have to create your REST API. You have to create a resource under your REST API, just as you do in the AWS. Whenever you have to add one resource, what you do with some parent, you will within one parent you will add another resource. You will update the method and integration, like you will like get post what kind of request it will be and different configurations, and then at the end you will deploy. Same thing. They had given some uh, CLI command how to do that, as I have shown in the doc. Uh, but actually, this doesn't seem feasible. Why? Because in most of the real project, you have hundreds and thousands of APIs, and you cannot create manually each time. So there is one like very useful feature AWS provides. I'll show you. So you can, whenever you visit in the UI of the AWS, you will get this kind of in the stage section. You will get this kind of drop down. You can export the Swagger file. That will be the Open API specifications. So it will be similar to this. Once you export, and your resource will look like something like this. So the paths will be there. And sorry, and when you export, I'll show you how the Swagger will look. So we'll go back to this. So mostly we want minimum effort from our end to get us started with what we have in this. So we'll just export that AWS Swagger file, and we will write a small service kind of thing. I'll show that also. And using that, actually, some APIs that AWS SDK provides us. So you can utilize those and deploy those with that. So any doubts till now? I'll show a demo, then it will be much clearer. Okay. So this is a very basic application. It it gets you the product for the specific ID. This is your Lambda code. Okay. Uh, and okay, this is your Lambda code. And if you see, I was talking about Swagger. So once you export that Swagger file, you will get a file something like this. Here you can see you will have paths. In this case, it's products. This product is calling Lambda. So you will see the URI is something like this. Similarly, I wanted one path where I wanted to show we can work with our local server, local backend running server. So I have created one more route that is /local product. Here URI you can notice this will be my stage variables that we set while deploying our API gateway. And yeah. So yeah, so this is the basic structure of the app. And forgive me for this bad UI. I created this in the first year of my college. These are class-based components. And today it is now coming back to use. Yeah, so if you see here quickly, I am making the request to this local stack. I am not making request to my backend server. My backend server is what? This is my backend server. This is running on this is a very basic Express server I just simulated for this. It just gives, there is some fake response I have created, and it returns that response. So when you hit this, you are not making request to my Express server. You are actually making the request to AWS API gateway. And that is redirecting to a specific URL based on the what Swagger file implementation you have given. And now, now see the threshold, there is no blocker from my migration. How your generally app will look like. So I'll give one example again. Yeah, so if you see, basically this is very smaller app. So I have given just two conditions. So generally in a production grade application, what we'll have based on different env, different base URL, and all the configs will generally will return. So say if it is development environment, we will configure our base URL as this. If it is production, we'll call the actual AWS API. Just one line of code change from our exact repo. And from the deployment point of view, you have to create just one script. So this is just to get my host IP. You can consider it as a black box. We still need to give the access ID reason and all. This is kind of fake. So it's not, you are just getting the AWS object and you are setting the configs. This also you can consider as black box for now. These are the two constructors. One is Lambda and one is API gateway. How we deploy Lambda? We deploy our zip functions to the Lambda. In the actual, if you see your CI pipelines, what we'll do, we'll zip our code and we'll deploy to Lambda function. Same thing, we have to zip the codes. This also you can consider as a black box. We are just zipping the code. Now here, only two things you have to see. Deploying the Lambda and deploying the API gateway. Deploying the Lambda means creating the Lambda functions and then deploying it to the API gateway. Coming to deploying, yeah, this is, first we are zipping. We are reading that zip. We can pass these params. You can see, if you see these specifications here. Okay, I'll show you this. This is your handler function actually. And this is the code. This will be your zip file. So if you see the details of this, it's nothing. It's just it needs the zip file in the body. So yeah, and then you will config with this params. You will create the function. You will update if you have to update anything, and then in the deploy API gateway, we will check if already the API gateway exists. If not exist, we will create with this Swagger. Then we will update the integration, that method and integrations. Then we'll deploy. These variables, whatever we want to access, we can access. We can pass as the here, and as environment variable we can access. So that's it. Like that's all the pretty much about this. And this API, this will be your access point of it. API ID you have to after HTTP and then execute localhost localStack cloud. And this is dev here because stage we have added as dev. I'll show you. So your URL will be whatever stage you pass. Base URL, stage, and then. So if you are like in generally we see while deployment, right, in our specific environment, whatever your environment name will be, it will be followed. Many people follow that pattern. Yeah, so that's it. And if the moment uh, you don't have to make any changes, uh, yeah. So similar to this, whatever we have the product details dot ID was there. So details we are getting. And if you see this, this is also calling the API gateway. Uh, and assume we'll come here and just we will change our environment to say production, then we'll call this API. So no changes from our end. So this was all about the development. I'll show one debugging session also, like till now any doubt. Like generally these kind of things are boring. So uh, yeah. No, backend will be- this. Mm, mm. No, it's not dummy data, right? It's the actual data, like how it happens. In AWS, what will happen? You make the request to AWS. AWS will, for that specific DB, it will fetch the details. Now it will fetch for your local DB. The API routes and all will be everything same. Local DBs, yeah. There will be no changes. Yeah, there will not be change any from the backend. Backend is like instead of running on the server, you are running on your local server. Yeah, that's. Yeah, yeah. Uh, like I'm not able to comprehend. Can you AWS function? You are telling what we are getting from AWS SDK or create functions, deploy API gateway? No. Oh, okay, okay. That is you are deploying your lambdas also. So that functions are lambda functions, right? No, no. Okay. So this is, sorry, it will work. If your lambda is not making some using internet, it will work. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is same network, right? No, no. Unless and until the lambda, for example, if you see here, that URL we get from the local stack that is running. Yeah. Y- They give a pattern, only REST API ID you have to update. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Nothing. Unless and until, for example, the same case I was talking about, right? So if you see here, how my Lambda implementation was, right? My Lambda was making some external call, if you see here. So this may need this will need the internet, but if these APIs were returning some response, will not need internet. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, without any dependency on the AWS. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just the emulator for this. And it saves a lot of time, and I hope money also. That is fake key. It needs that param, but that is fake random key you can add. Most of the services they provide. I'll show you that also. They have a UI that is not as per the actual AWS for now, but they have a good, decent UI for that. You can check all the services that they support. CloudWatch, SQS. Sorry. Yeah, yeah. Mm. You are setting the keys and all, right? These are your keys, right? So for these for these credentials you are setting, right? Mm. Okay. Anything else? We can also do queries on your DB. You are telling. Yeah. DynamoDB and all you are talking about. Yeah, yeah. I'll tell you about what are the services they are providing. I'll show you. Okay. Anything else? Okay, then I'll give a small demo of how like there are uh, products available in the market that solves a specific problem. For example, you want to debug Lambda, you have serverless. Look, serverless offline, I guess. So similar, but this gives in a whole a package to you. Like you can just emulate the whole AWS. Mhm. Yeah. See, as far as Lambda and API gateway is concerned, it cannot behave differently, right? Same functions are getting called. Same. For the services that I have not used, I think still yes, but I cannot 100% confirm that because I have not used that. Yeah, yeah, I'll wrap up. Okay. So I'll show just one debugging of this. For example, this was the actually debugging itself is a long topic, and maybe sometimes later I'll try to have a session on debugging. But for this, I'll show you just a quick thing. I have configured this two files you have to create: launch JSON, task JSON. Whenever you are configuring in the VS Code, you have to create that launch JSON file, and to connect that to the uh, this remote Lambda debugging, we have to create this task JSON. So this was my Lambda function. I have set these breakpoints. Uh, I'm starting the debugger. If you see, you can see here my debuggers are attached. This menu, if it's visible by any chance, uh, it's coming fast in there. Okay, let me try something else. Yeah, now you can see this, right? Yeah. So I'll hit this Lambda. Uh, Now you can see my debugger has stopped here. I like it's so much pain to debug Lambda. Like I cannot explain. Like when I found this feature, how happy I was. Uh, it's like now it's very smooth, right? You can just like your browser, you can track it and work on your Lambda, debug it, and then deploy it. No tension. Like you will be sure, like if you're deploying it, it will work. And as the normal deployment, like just basic things, like for example, I'm going to this line, so I can see all those things, event and all. So yeah, this was the all from my end. I think I took more time. Sorry for that. Yeah. Any questions if I